Hello, this is a quick demo for Trimble Field Points. I'm just going to go over some quick things in the commands and everything that is included in Trimble Field Points. I do want to point out, first of all, that you should have received a link to Google Drive. You'll have these sample files, you have blocks in here, and as well as some Revit files that you can use. I do want to point out there's 2 Word documents in here. Go ahead and take a look at those, open those up, print those out. Those are very good. They were created to help you through a demo. It has some talking points. It has a lot of different things in there that can help you get familiar with Trimble Field Points and on how to do different things. Okay. The main things that you'll be using here is this DWT right here. The reason we set it up as a DWT is because you can double click on it like this right here, and it'll open it right up. And it opens it up as a drawing 1 or drawing 2 based on whatever's there, so you won't accidentally save over it. If you hit save right now, it's gonna tell you, hey, what do you want to name this? Okay, at that point you can say, okay, this I'm doing this with Encore Electric, for example. So you can name it Encore Sample, whatever you want to name it. That's totally up to you, but this way it keeps your drawing file good, and you might not accidentally save over it. Okay, there are also areas. If you come in here, you have area 1, 2, and 3. The reason those areas are there is because in the actual Word document you will actually find that it says go to area 1, go to area 2, go to area 3. So I try to be as specific as possible in those things. Some quick things to know about these files. It is set up with some external references, so you have to make sure everything is on here. You have in 3D, you have your architecture and your structure, and you also have an XREF of your grid. Okay, the grid is in here twice. Okay, you have this as lines inside of the drawing. You also have the XREF. The reason that both of them are in there is because you can show this 2 different types. There's a really neat feature that allows you to place points on external references, which is really cool. And I'll go over that shortly. Okay, so once you open this up, this is what it's going to look like. First, you have to determine what it is that you're going to be demonstrating. Okay, for this example, I'll go ahead and I can open up. You can see my layer manager. You can open that up. The command is LA. That'll bring it up. You can come in here into home and you can find the layer manager as well. Where is that? Here. Okay. You can also send it to the top if you right click. I like to just see, here's your layer properties. You could just right click and select add to quick access toolbar, and that'll throw it right here to the top. Okay, by doing that you can just click on it and it comes up. I have it docked to the side just to make it easier, but what I can do is by default this is turned on. Okay, so if I'm doing a demo for someone that's sheet metal, I can come in here and do visibility on. Okay, and I just turned on all my duct. Okay, so this makes it very easy to go in here and quickly place points. Okay, by going in here, see if I wanted to do duct and maybe I want to throw in some pipe as well. If I right click, select on, it turns on my pipe. So as you can see, we have a lot of different trades. So I can right click, hit visibility on. Now I have my electrical on in here. I could turn everything on if I wanted to in here as well. Okay, for this demo we'll go ahead and we'll stick with just some basic things just to show. I think probably the easiest one, we'll go with this cable tray here, and then maybe with just some pipe. It'll probably make it the easiest. So I'm going to work with the electrical for just a minute. So I'm going to go ahead and make sure you click on it so that it shows everything. At that point you can actually right click visibility off. Okay, so I could do the same thing here, right click visibility off. Okay, so now I have just my electrical. Okay, if I wanted to do this exact same thing with the HVAC, I could do that as well. So the first thing that we have to make sure to see on here is that there's no icon for this, okay? You will not find an icon. You just open up AutoCAD, it's an app inside of it. You'll find a ribbon, okay? This ribbon, it can be customized, so you can drag and drop this wherever you want. Normally it puts it towards the end, so it's just where it's at, okay? First thing you want to do once you come in here is you want to set your settings. Alright, if I click on settings, you have a couple things that you can set here. The main thing in here that you want is your annotations, okay? So, how do you want the annotations set up? You can hit restore default and just go with the defaults, or you can tell it, okay, I just want, this is going to be what comes up on my annotation, the description, the symbol that comes in, and then the point number. Most of the times, me personally, I prefer just seeing the point number. So if I select point number, and I come in here and I tell it none, I only want to see the point number. Or you could flip-flop them, however you like. You can also set the text size. Remember what your setting this is. This is in model space. So you have to make sure you set 2 inches tends to be pretty good, 3 inches, it's just based on what you have. Then the style that you want to use. I don't necessarily like to use annotative because it can mess up here and there. So I will go with Roman S. Okay, your annotation layer, okay, you can actually set what layer you want this on. Okay, what you have to remember with this is that you have to make sure it's on. Okay, so if my layers, if I left off with this here, I'm not going to be able to see anything. So I want to make sure I'm clicking here so that all my layers are visible. Okay, so if I wanted to put it on a specific layer, I can go ahead and select what layer I want it on. Okay, I have several different ones created in here. You have the electrical, you have duct, pipe, and plumbing. Okay, you also have your controls and deviations in here, just to make it easy. Okay, so I will go in here and I'll go back into the settings. Okay, now if I click here, you'll see that there's more options just because I turned everything on. Okay, and I am going to go ahead and just leave it on 0. Okay, if you want a leader, you can also specify. It'll automatically throw a leader in. And then where do you want the text? You want upper left, upper right, lower left, or lower right? Okay, your text offset. So this is the offset from the point how far off the text is. And so if you have a leader, how far is it from the leader? You also have the manual placement. If you choose to place it manually, should it allow you to rotate after you place it? Okay. So these are my settings right here. You also have your tooltips. So this is anytime that you hover over anything, this is what's going to show up for you. Okay, you can pick everything or you can just pick certain things that you want to see. General, these are just your attributes. When you're inside these dialog box, you'll see that say attribute 1 through 5. You can rename it to say whatever you want. We tend to just leave that alone since on the tablet it shows up as attribute 1 through 5. Okay. So we'll click OK. Everything is all set. Now we're ready to go. First thing we're going to go over is the place manual point. Okay, and it is just that, manually placing a point. Okay, these dialog boxes, in any one that you click, you're going to be inside of a dialog box. Dialog boxes, all these are created like a book. You read it left to right, up, down. Okay, so we'll start here with the category. You have your settings. You can pick any box. If you have any drawing with a box inside of it, a circle, cylinder, whatever you want, you can pick it and use it. All you have to do is come here, tell it where you want it, and make it visible. Click on it, make it visible. If there's specific ones, maybe company standards, whatnot, you can click on one and say, we don't use this, and make it hidden. At that point, people don't get the, you know, on your file, on your computer specifically, you won't have that option, okay? And then description. So you always have to have a description of what you're making. So say I am doing, we're just going to call it equipment pad. We'll just call it pad. Prefix, we'll call it equipment. Okay. So we're going to call it pad. What layer am I going to put this in? Since I'm in the electrical ones, I'm going to roll down and I'm going to go here to the electrical. Okay. place annotation, I'm going to go ahead and leave it at none for now. My prefix, equipment, equip. Alright, and then 1. What's really nice about this is you have this little refresh button here, okay? So if I move on from doing equipment pads and then, hey, there's another one I forgot to do, I don't have to go searching to see which one the last one is. All I have to do is hit refresh. It will find, if you have a prefix, number, and a suffix, it will find the last one with that same prefix and suffix, and then refresh this to be the next one. Okay, so you don't have to keep track of what numbers you're at. As long as you keep track of the prefix and suffix, make sure they're the same, then it's going to work. So if I do electrical, okay, and then you have your 5 attributes. Again, you can put this all goes over to the tablet, and then your settings. Okay, you also in here is the object snap. So wherever you click, that's where it's going to put it. A distance from the object snap. So wherever you click, if you tell it 10 feet, it's going to go up 10 feet. Okay, if you tell it negative 10 feet, it's going to go down 10 feet. So if you do at fixed elevation, you can tell it, say, I know, maybe for control points or just for certain things that you want to just place them on the ground, regardless of where they are at the Z elevation. You can come in here and say fixed elevation 0, and then it'll just place everything on the ground for you. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and stay with snap elevation, and we'll click place. Okay, at this point it takes you back to here. You have a couple options. Wherever you click, that's where it's going to put it. You also have your settings. So if you click on settings, it takes you right back to a dialog box. So you can change things on the fly. So make sure you always look at the command line. So we'll click place, and I don't necessarily have any equipment here, but say I had like a junction box or something right here. Okay, I can click on the 4 corners. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Alright. So now there's a couple options, right? I can hit enter and it'll end. I can hit escape and it'll end. So I'm just going to go with enter and I'll end my command. Okay, so now I place those 4 points. We're going to go over place tracing points, but place points over path is very similar. Place points for over path is maybe for customers that don't necessarily use 3D geometry. Maybe they just have lines coming around. Okay, with place points over path, basically what it does is it'll follow a path. So if I say this line here was my 2D geometry, it's going to follow it. If you have a spline, it follows it. So a line, polyline, a spline, arcs, it follows all that, including the Z elevation. So you tell it how much apart you want it to be, every 4 feet, 5 feet, 2 inches, whatever you want, and it will follow that, and every certain amount of points that you tell it, it will place that. So we'll go with tracing points just because we want to say we want to put these in here. I'm going to pretend that these are not here and that I want to place these right here. Okay, so if I know the size of my rack, alright, which is 1'6", alright, and if you do a dimension, you know, you can always go from the center, go off there, 9 inches. So I'm probably gonna tell it to go out a little bit more because you want to give it that extra room. So what you do is you go into place tracing points, you go back into that same dialog box, make it a little bit bigger here. Okay, you pick the entity that you're playing with, that you are going to place. I'll go with the box. And then you select the type of point. So single point would just place as 1. You can also do double points because you want it on each side, right? So with this one, we're going to go with double point. Now, what's the offset from the center? Okay. So I'm going to go with 10 inches. Yeah. Basically, what it's going to do is from the center, 10 inches this way and 10 inches this way, it's going to place a point. Description. Hangers. Okay. What layer do you want to place it on? Hanger layer. if you want to place annotations, I'm going to go ahead and use automatic on this one just so you can see what it does. My prefix, I'm going to call it HP. We're going to go with 1, and we're going to end with electrical. Okay, just so we have that there. You can again select your attributes. This one we're going to go ahead and do at the picked elevation. Okay, you can also say at fixed elevation. So if I'm going to be benchmarking, I could just put it at 0 and drop everything to the ground. We'll actually do that with this one. Also, if you know the top and you're going to be pointing up, you can also do it that way. Okay. Point placement. Here is where you have to be a little bit specific at every pick point. So wherever I click, that's where it's going to put a point. I want it to be more automatic, so I'll put intermediate points. Okay. How often do you want to place those points? So now with intermediate points, you're picking the endpoints, and it's computing in between, and every 4 feet it's going to place points. So we'll leave it with 4 feet. If you want a minimum distance between points, you can specify that as well. Okay, so we'll go ahead and we'll leave it at 4. We won't put a minimum distance, and now we'll click place. Okay. As you can see, you can go back into settings, but right now I'm going to go ahead and click the center of this. Okay, if you look at this right now, you can see I can go into settings, I can start a new run, and I can also undo my last pick point. That one was correct, so I'm just going to go all the way through to right here. Okay, so you see what it did? Place it at every point. Okay, so now I want to go up, but where I clicked, it's not necessarily going to place it up right there. Okay, so now my next option, I can undo. So if I messed up and I was like, oh, that's not where I want it to end, I can click undo. Let's say I want it to end right here. There we go. Now I can say new run. Okay, so if I type in N, I can start a new run. So if I want to start over here, I could do that as well. But let's start right here. Come here all the way, I would say to about this point is fine. Okay, I'll do another new run. We'll go from here. We'll make our way down to there. Okay, you can type an N again for a new run. And I can come right up here and do it with this one as well. So I quickly place points every 4 feet. Okay, if I'm done, I can just hit escape. If I want to change my settings, and by settings it could be your annotations, it could be anything, or if I want to change this one, I could do it on the fly, just like that. So now, say my rack isn't that big, it's a smaller rack, I could change this dimension quickly by going into the settings. Okay, so I'll hit cancel, and I'll hit escape. Now I'm done. So just a quick example, if I hover over this right now, you're going to see those field point at the tooltips. Okay, so that is what you set in the general settings. Okay, so now if you look here, this is just my point number, because in my settings I told it to just do my point number. Alright, that one looks pretty good. So I went through, we placed all those points very quickly. At this point, you know, you can edit. I have 2 very close together, so I can delete a couple. And again, that's where that minimum distance comes into play. Okay. Alright, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and turn off my electrical. Okay. Visibility off. And then I'm going to turn on my piping. Visibility on. Alright. So I'm going to have some piping right here. This was on layer 0. Do select similar. Put it back on that TFP points if I wanted to. There we go. That way it hides. Alright. So, I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next one. Place points over path. Again, it's the same way. It's just 2D entities. As you can see, it says right here, arc line, polyline, a 3D polyline, and a spline are all things that you can pick. Okay, works the exact same way as tracing points. Cancel that. we're going to go ahead and for now, we're going to skip over grid points, and that's very simple. You just pick your grid. We'll actually come back to that in just a minute. We're going to go over place points over blocks. Okay, so I'm going to go in the side view right here. I have these hangers. Okay, I want to place this on these hangers, but I want them to be right at the top. I'm going to go with place points over blocks. First thing, select a block. Okay, I'll select you. And then, what type do you want to use, the entity? I'm going to use the cone because I like that. It's like it's pointing right where it needs to go. Hanger point, and we'll call it pipe. Okay. Layer, we'll go down here, we'll put on the pipe hangers. Annotations, we'll just not do any annotations for now. And then the placement settings, I'm just going to go ahead and go with object snap. Okay. At this point, you have two separate options. Okay. You have insertion point, so whatever the insertion point of your block is, that's where it's going to place your points. You also have the ability to place custom points. So if I click custom, you have this little ellipse here. If you click on the ellipse, it isolates out that drawing. Alright, CAD likes to do this off and on. Let's see. Let's try this one more time. Alright, there it is. Okay, so I'm going to go right to the center right here, top of the rod. You have a couple different options when you're in here. You can have it just change top, bottom, southwest ISO. I like to rotate over a little bit so I make sure I'm at the top, because with CAD, you never know what it's snapping to. So most of the time it tends to snap at 0, so I like to make sure it's at the top. Once you're there, you can hit enter or escape, and I'll hit enter. You come back to this dialog box and see it's telling you exactly where it's at. Alright, so I'll go ahead and select place. And there's all my points that I just placed. Okay, because these hangers are a bit different, if I click on the options here, you can tell this is a 1-inch hanger. Okay. In this drawing, I have 1 inch, 2 inch, 3 inch, 4 inch, up to 6 inch hangers. So it'll only place just that one block. Okay, so you would have to go in and do the rest, all the other ones. But as of right now, it placed all my 1 inch hangers. Okay, so for now, that's pretty good for me. Just for this demonstration. If you had different types of hangers, you can click as many times as you want when you're in that other one, and it's going to place that many points on each hanger, okay, based on whatever it is that you click, wherever you click, or wherever you're snapping to. So now I'm going to go ahead and go back over to the grid points. You just click place grid points. Very simple. I'm going to change this one around just because I like for it to be different for the grid. Your number pattern, how do you want it to place the points? I like it to be pretty consistent with my numbering and lettering, so I'll just have it go and come back and name. So we'll call these control points, so we'll just throw in control. Annotations, I'm going to have it automatically annotate. Prefix, so we'll just call it grid. Okay, so as you're ready, you're going to select place. If you notice here, it's going to tell you select the first grid line. Okay, so this is going to be my first one. Okay, now as you can see, it selected everything for me. If it accidentally missed one, you can actually go in and add. So you can see right here, you can accept it. If there's one that it picked that you didn't want, you can select remove. Okay, I'm pretty happy with what it picked, so I'll just click enter. Okay. The thing that's tricky about this is that it's asking you for a grid line again. It didn't miss it. If I zoom in, you can see that my points are there. Okay, so as soon as you're done with it, just hit escape, because then you'll go back over it. Okay, it will ignore them because there is an option here. Okay, overlapping points, leave the original or replace with the new point. So if you keep doing this over and over and over, it's not going to necessarily place double points. It'll either keep the first one or the last one you did, based on your settings here. Okay, so go ahead and cancel out of this. So now I quickly place control points, I place points over blocks, and I place some points with doing the path. Now I'm going to show, if you have XREFs with 2D geometry, there's a very easy way to place points on this. For example, our grid. Our grid is one that a lot of times it's XREF'd into the drawing. So what I'm going to do right now is I am going to freeze this grid. Alright, and I'm going to freeze these points. I'm not going to freeze them. Leave them on. For now, I'm going to actually go ahead and get rid of these. If I do a select similar, notice it's only selecting my grid points. It's not selecting any of my other points. Okay, it's just grid. I'm going to delete those. Now I'm going to go into my XREFs and I'm going to go ahead and turn on the grid. And this is actually the whole grid. I did just a quadrant of this building, as you can see. So, we're going to go ahead and place the grid lines on everything. Freeze off some things. There we go. Alright. If you look at this drop down, you have a couple different options. Place object points talks about 2D geometry. Okay. So we'll click with the object points. Alright, now I get this nifty little pop-up again. Select entities or entire drawing. I'll come back to this in just a sec. I'll select my entity. I'll go ahead and change it a little bit. Just a sphere. Description. Call it grid points. Grid. Layer. We'll put down control points. Annotations. Automatic. Okay. In this part here, you have include entities inside. Blocks. Okay. This means just geometry. It's not a block in AutoCAD. Basically, it's talking about the geometry inside. And again, this is 2D. So if I had these here, that would be included in that. Or XREFs. So I'm going to check my XREFs. Alright, well in my XREF, what do I want to find? Are these lines? Are they polylines? Are they points, circles, arcs, ellipses? I'll select lines because these are lines. Now overlapping points, what do I do with them? Leave original, prefix, grid. Okay, now where do I put them? The snap elevation. I'm going to go ahead and leave that there. If you have grid point or a grid that's off in the air, sometimes you turn it sideways and lines are all over the place, you can do fixed elevation, just tell it 0. Most of the time I prefer to do that anyways, just because your control points want to be at 0. Okay. Now, where am I going to place these points? Okay, you can do it at the end points, you can do it at the midpoints, center, whatever you can snap to, you can put it in here. So I'm going to go ahead and go with intersection, click on that, and then my attributes. Alright, now that this is good, I'm going to go ahead and select my entities. Alright, and select my XREF. Okay, it just selected the XREF, but now you actually have to click on the items that you want to place it on. So I'm going to click this one, and if you look at the bottom, I have 2 so far. This one, this one, this one, this one. I can hover and do that. I have 9 there now. Okay, and I will do these. Okay, so now it has 11. Okay, so I'm going to click enter. Alright. And now you can see how many lines it has found inside of my XREFs. Alright, so I'll go ahead and say place. And as you can see, it went through my whole grid and I placed it. But this is a very nice and easy way to place things. Okay. Okay, so if I had a bunch of circles in a plumbing drawing or something like that, I can click those circles from the XREF and say, hey, I want you to put it at the center point of that circle. And say, hey, those are my sleeves. Okay, so now we have all our control points. I'm gonna undo that one since it did so many. And it's mostly just an example. There's my grid points back. Okay. Alright, I just wanted with that. Okay, so now I am ready to export. So what I'm going to do is I can save this and call it whatever I need to call it. For now, because we need this, go back into the Google Drive, comparison. Alright, I'm just saving it like this, just so that when you guys can pick it up, it'll be good. Alright, so now that everything's ready to go, even though I am not seeing some of these points, I'm going to come back in here and I can turn the electrical back on, and we can turn the pipe back on. Okay, so we could do our export. We have a couple different options in here. By default, not everything's checked, so I just like to go with checking everything. Okay, so check them all. Okay, and then you have a couple different options. You can do exported, to set them that you've exported them, to include objects that you've exported already. I check that just in case. And then ensure unique numbers when possible. This allows you to, it renumbers your numbers. If you have duplicates, it's going to renumber them. So I'm going to go ahead and just select my entire drawing. There's 244 points. And then I could check this to include my background. For this sample, I'm not going to include background. Okay, I'm going to go demo points. Okay. Okay, now I will click OK. I'm going to override the file that was there. We're good. Okay. So I'm going to show you this real quick. You won't necessarily have to do it because you'll be able to just import points that are there. But once they're exported, say I exported everything, I brought them out to the field. Okay. And I am placing everything, right? So okay. I'm going through this one just quickly because I am going to pretend include all. Zoom extents. I am going to pretend that all these were brought into the field. Okay, so I'm going to select everything, and then I have the option here under my properties, select field points. Okay, and I can just check this. It's staked. Alright. This is an easy way to fudge a couple of things just so that you can demonstrate several things. So if you want to do this with a client file, you can do it as well. You don't have to put it in the tablet to demonstrate any of this. I'm going to fudge it. So I'm going to say, hey, you know what? This wasn't placed exactly where it said it was going to be placed. It was 6 inches off. Okay. I could say the same for these hangers right here. You know what? These were moved. There we go. So now I can export again. Select my drawing. And you can actually will be able to just bring this one into your file, okay, to demonstrate this. But I just did this very quickly just so you could kind of see that you could do it all in CAD. I'm not going to save. Okay, so we get an as-built file from the field. Okay, it's that file that I just created and I fudged a little bit. So we can go into import points. I can browse over to where my file's at. This is from field file, and that is in the Google Drive, so you can open it and use it. So we'll go open. First thing it's going to do is it's going to find all the points. Okay. Continue. Alright, now it's going to say, hey, you know what? These match up. Are there any new points? There's no new points. Okay, so you have a couple different options here. You have your settings, which you want to make sure you set first. Okay. I'm going to come in here. What layer do I want this on? I have a deviation layer. Deviations. What it's going to do is it's going to go off of this tolerance here, right here, and it's going to say, okay, these don't match up, it's over this tolerance, and it's going to cloud it. What kind of cloud do you want to use? Oh, I'll use this one. Rectangular cloud. Okay, I'm going to put it on this layer, and those are the offset. So if you had new points, well, what is it going to place those new points on? Okay, and this is all this information here. Your format, everything's in here. Alright, click OK. You also have this right here, which is Deviation Report. Okay, your Deviation Report. This can only be run when you're bringing it in for the first time, when it matches up the points. So remember to run this. You have a couple different options. You can save this. You can also do an export, and you can go to a PDF, HTML, Excel, any of these files you can send it off to. Okay, you can also print it. But it's a good thing, if you want it, just save it, because you cannot get back into this as of right now. Okay, you can close out, you can email it, whatever it is you want to do. I will close out. Okay, if you have new points, you can have information here, or you can create new matches. Since there's no new points, you can't really do anything here. Now it's saying, okay, well, what do you want me to bring in? If I want everything to be run in, I can right click and select Include All. Okay. And then import. So now what it's doing is bringing everything in. It does it fairly quickly, which is really nice. And it's going to go through and say, hey, this was off from what I said. And if you remember, I moved all of this up. So look at this. It clouded all of those points and moved them to where they are in the field. So now I know that this whole rack, this whole piece has moved. So then at that point, I can do my as-builts and I can move everything together. Okay, so where were the other ones? Here they are. See those clouds? So those are the ones I moved. Okay, these hangers have moved up. You can see them all. So this is a really easy way. I just kind of quickly did a deviation. Just really nice. You can get more in depth with it. I can click on the points and look at the properties. It should tell me they're all staked. Okay. Because I didn't do this on the tablet, it doesn't actually tell me that it's staked. That's the only thing right now that's not transferring through, but everything else so far transfers through. And as you can see, you can fudge it pretty good inside of CAD and bring them back in and call it good. Because I just did that for you, you don't have to do it. All you have to do is import in that file and it will show it just like this. Okay. So you can go in and edit your point file, layers and stuff like that. You can run reports. The reports, it's very simple. You can select the entire drawing and then what do you want, detailed or summary. Detailed report, it just gives you XYZ coordinates. It tells you if it's staked. It tells you the layer it's on. Here's the point that comes up, right? The file name, when it was exported, and if it was staked. Okay. If we do, go back into reports and we do a summary, select entire drawing. It only gives you the coordinates, and the description and name. So that's all you get with the summary. Okay, so we close out of that. So there are some points that I hadn't labeled. I had just left them there. Okay, which is these 4 right here. You have a couple different options. You have automatically place annotations and manually. Automatic, you just click which ones you want. Once you hit enter, it places the annotation for you. Okay, manual, it's 2 clicks. First click, second click. Right, first click, second click. Okay, I had the leader off in the settings, so at this point, you know, it's not giving me the option for the leader. Under annotations, you have a couple different options. You can refresh your annotation property. This is in case you've changed anything outside of Trimble field points. Okay, if you click on this point, go to my properties. If you change anything in here, it's not automatic. It's not going to refresh. Okay, it's better to change your properties in the Trimble field points. If you move these points, they are going to update. If you hit refresh, annotations, everything will update. Okay. Apply point annotation settings. So if I change things, I say, you know what, maybe I just want to see a description, okay? Or we'll leave it like this and say, hey, you know what, I want a leader. That's how I want it. Click OK. So if I hit apply, now I can select what I want to apply it to. I'll say just this one. Enter. And so it updates everything. Let's see. What did I change it to? Let's go to the description. See if it. There it goes. So then it just updates. So if I want to do just a description in all of them, I can go in here. You can select them ahead of time, so I can do a select similar. Right? Apply the settings, and now it just updates them. Okay, so you can select first and then place, or you can select after the command. Alright, so that is it. That was a very quick demo on how to do everything. You have a lot of different options. You have your field point properties, which gives you all the information in there. You can renumber points in case you think there's any duplicates in there before you want to export them. When it renumbers after you export, it only renumbers the exported file. It does not renumber your CAD file. So your numbers might not match. Okay, you can renumber the grid points. And one of the other things, I'm sorry, that I didn't go over was place blocks over points. So for example, in these ones, if I had a block where these were my strut or my all thread, and my strut was, you know, one of the corners or something like that, I can build this all together. If I was going with just the centers, I could use the place block over point. So let's just do this one. Let's go back to the pipe, make sure it's on. It is on. I'm going to turn off the electrical. Off. Okay. Here we go. So now I no longer have hangers there, but I want my hanger to be right there. So what I can do is say place blocks over points. Select my point. Select that one. You can select multiple, but for this one, I'm just going to do this one. Okay. Now, what block do I want to put in? So I'm going to scroll down. And remember, wherever your point is, and that's your insertion point. Okay. So if it's different, then it might not necessarily come in, but you can bring in blocks quickly. And if you build them this way so that your insertion point is your field point, then it works perfectly. So I'm going to click place. And now it's done. So as you can see, I now have a block on there, but my insertion point is the center of the pipe on that block. So guess what? I'm it. There we are. See how that came in? So now if I wanted to, I could just move it down. There. So now I'm right on the center. Okay. This is based on how you make your blocks. My block, this is my insertion point. How do I know? I have a square right there. Okay, that's how you know where your insertion point is. It's wherever that little square is. If my insertion point was that top piece, then it would have come in properly. Okay, so there's a lot of different things you can do on here, and that's a very nice use because you can place your points ahead of time and then throw in your blocks for your hangers. You can do this for sleeves, you can do it for lots of different things. For now, that's kind of it on the demo. If you have any questions, feel free to email me or David, and we can kind of go over the different things. Thank you.